Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into ketamine therapy today. More specifically, how music can totally change the whole experience.
Mhm.
Maybe you're thinking about doing a session yourself, or maybe you're just curious. Maybe you're looking into different kinds of treatments. Ketamine is definitely getting more and more attention these days, especially with psychotherapy.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a good reason for that. Just taking ketamine isn't enough. The environment, the mindset, it's called set and setting are super important for it to actually work.
Oh, so it's not just about like the drug itself, like the whole experience matters.
Exactly. That's where the music comes in. It's not just something in the background. It can really shape your whole journey.
Okay, so like break this down for me. What's a ketamine session like?
Well, a ketamine journey usually has three phases. There's the pre-peak, the peak, and the post-peak. Each one has different emotional and psychological shifts. You can almost think of it like a dance, and the music is like your partner guiding you through it.
Ooh, that's a cool way to think about it. So what kind of moves are we learning in each of these phases?
So the pre-peak is all about getting settled in letting the medication start working. The music is really gentle here, easing you into a different state of mind. Then there's the peak. That's where the ketamine is strongest. You might have like profound insights, emotional breakthroughs, and the music helps you handle those really strong feelings. And then in the post-peak, it's about integrating the experience, kind of processing what you learned, and slowly going back to a grounded state. The music should be calming and supportive during this phase, like a soft landing.
Okay, so each phase has its own like musical vibe to help you through it. That makes sense. But before we go any further, I think we need like a little ketamine 101.
Of course. So basically, ketamine works by changing how brain cells talk to each other. It interacts with something called the NMDA receptor, which is involved in processing information and emotions, like you're adjusting the volume on certain brain signals.
Interesting. So it's not just making you feel good or bad, but it's like changing the way your brain is working. That's pretty powerful.
It is. And that's why ketamine can be so effective for things like depression, anxiety, PTSD. We know that from the sources you gave. But the way it's given to you matters. Some therapists use subanesthetic doses, which means you're awake and aware, but you're seeing and thinking differently. Other therapists like to use those trippy effects, thinking it's the key to getting to deeper stuff psychologically.
Wow. So there are different approaches, but they all use ketamine's power to change our perspective. And that's where the music helps us kind of go through those changes.
Exactly. Music can help you ride out tough emotions, reduce anxiety, and even make the therapy work better, leading to more lasting change.
So music becomes this powerful tool to make the whole thing more comfortable, more effective, and maybe even life-changing.
Yeah, exactly. Like having a co-therapist right there with you, supporting you and guiding you the whole way. Stanislav Grof, one of the pioneers of psychedelic therapy, he said music's like a carrier wave helping you move through the hard parts of the experience. And welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're still talking about ketamine therapy and how music can really make those therapeutic experiences even better.
Yeah, so in the last part, we talked about set and setting and how music is almost like a co-therapist during these ketamine journeys. We also touched on those three phases, pre-peak, peak, and post-peak.
Yeah, and how important it is to pick the right music for each phase to get the best results.
Right. So let's dive into that. If I'm getting ready for a ketamine session, what kind of music should I even be thinking about? What actually works best?
Well, one approach that a lot of therapists get inspiration from is the Copenhagen Music Program.
The Copenhagen Music Program. I've never heard of that. Tell me more.
Well, it was made for psilocybin therapy originally, but a lot of the ideas work really well for ketamine sessions, too. It basically says to use music as a way to help and guide the experience.
It's like a musical roadmap. I like that.
Exactly. One of the main things they focus on is tempo. Music with a fast tempo, like anything over 120 beats per minute, that can be too much, too stimulating, even distracting during the peak when things are already kind of intense.
Yeah, that makes sense. You wouldn't want like a burst of energy to throw you off when you're trying to go deep. Right.
Right. Then there's medium tempo music that's between 75 and 120 BPM. That can be good for stirring up emotions, even bringing back memories. And then slow tempo around 60 to 75 BPM. That's usually best for the pre-peak when you're getting settled and the post-peak when you're kind of processing everything. It creates a feeling of calm and being grounded.
So it's all about choosing music that matches the energy of each phase. Slower and more gentle for the beginning and end, and maybe a bit more dynamic in the middle.
Exactly. Now, another important thing is the key of the music. Major keys, they usually bring up feelings of joy and upliftment, even a sense of wonder, which really fits with what we're trying to do in these sessions.
So major keys are usually a good choice then.
Yeah, they often are, especially during the peak. Minor keys can be powerful for letting go of emotions, but they might be too intense for some people during that part.
So it's about balancing, exploring those emotions with staying grounded.
Exactly. And then you have the whole question of genre and style. It's important to pick music that you personally connect with, but also keeps things interesting over lots of sessions.
So variety is key. But I remember you saying something about avoiding familiar music, especially stuff with lyrics. Why is that?
Yeah, that's really important. Familiar music, especially songs with lyrics, they can pull you out of the experience, they can trigger memories and associations, and that can disrupt that flow state that's so important for therapy.
So it's like you're being transported to a different world, and then suddenly a familiar song pops up and brings you back to reality.
Exactly. The music should be there to support you, not to distract you.
That makes a lot of sense. So what kinds of genres or styles are usually recommended for ketamine therapy then?
Classical music, especially composers like Bach, Beethoven, Debussy. It's complex, emotionally rich, and can be really powerful with ketamine. New Age music is popular too because it's often made for relaxation and introspection. And world music with all those different rhythms and instruments can also be really evocative and make you feel like you're expanding.
So it's about finding that balance between familiar and unfamiliar, something that feels grounding but also transcendent.
Exactly. And here's an interesting thing. A study found that patients who chose their own music actually scored higher on a mystical experience questionnaire.
Wow, so patient choice really does make a difference. It's not just about following a pre-made playlist, it's about finding what speaks to you.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be open with your therapist. Talk about what kind of music you like, what you find calming or distracting, and how the music makes you feel during the session. It's your journey. The music should support and enhance your experience.
So it's like a team effort between the therapist, the music, and the person going through the therapy.
Yeah, I like that. It's all about working together to create the best environment for healing and change. So are you ready to start making your own ketamine playlist?
I am. I already have some ideas.
Perfect, because in the next part of the depth dive, we'll be sharing some tips and tricks for making a playlist that's perfect for your own needs and goals.
And welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking all about ketamine therapy and how music can really add to the whole experience.
Yeah, and now it's your turn to take the wheel. We've covered the different phases of a ketamine journey and things like tempo key and genre.
Right, so now it's time to actually make our own ketamine playlists. But where do we even start?
Well, the first thing is to figure out your intention. What are you hoping to get out of your ketamine session? Are you looking for emotional release or spiritual insights? Or maybe a really deep sense of connection?
Oh, so it's kind of like setting an intention before meditating. You got to know what you want to focus on before you start.
Exactly. And once you have that intention, you can start looking for music that fits that goal. Remember those 3 phases, pre-peak peak and post-peak? It helps to think about them when you're putting your playlist together.
Okay, yeah, like picking different music for different parts of the journey.
Yeah.
But there's so much music out there. How do we even choose?
You can start with what you already like. Are there certain genres or artists that always move you or make you feel a certain way? That's a good place to start.
So if I'm into classical music, I could start by looking at my favorite composers.
Yeah, definitely. Or if you're more into ambient electronic music, there's a ton of soundscapes out there to discover. It's about finding music that feels familiar, but also takes you somewhere new, something that helps you let go and just be in the experience.
But what about that thing about avoiding familiar music? Like, especially with lyrics. I thought we were supposed to pick music we enjoy.
It's all about balance. If you really like a certain artist or genre, you can try their instrumental stuff or albums that are meant for relaxing or meditating.
Oh, so like a chill version of my favorite band.
Yeah, exactly. And even within one genre, there are so many different sounds and moods. You can experiment with different subgenres or artists within a category you already like.
So if I like electronic music, I could go from techno to like ambient or down-tempo electronica.
Right. It's all about broadening your musical taste and finding those hidden gems that really speak to what you want from the ketamine session.
Okay, so I've got my intention. I'm checking out genres and artists. Anything else I should keep in mind when I'm making my playlist?
Yeah. Pay attention to how the songs flow together. You want to make it a smooth journey, No jarring transitions that'll take you out of the experience. Think about the tempo, the key, the overall mood of each track, and try to put them in order so it feels natural and connected.
So no sudden jumps from Beethoven to death metal. Nice.
Right. It's about creating this sonic tapestry that supports, the emotional arc of the ketamine experience.
This is making me realize that making a ketamine playlist is actually pretty creative. It's like making a soundtrack for your own inner journey.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, there's help out there. A lot of therapists and clinics have playlists made just for ketamine therapy, and there are even apps and websites dedicated to finding psychedelic music.
So we don't have to do this alone. We can get ideas from people who have already done this.
Exactly. And as you're working on your playlist, pay attention to how different tracks make you feel, both physically and emotionally. Don't be afraid to change it up based on what you experience and what you like.
It's like an ongoing back and forth between you and the music you know. You keep tweaking it until you find that perfect sound.
That's a great way to put it. And as we wrap up this deep dive into ketamine therapy and music, I want to leave you with this. Music is super powerful. It can really unlock things inside of us. And when you combine it with ketamine therapy, it can be this amazing catalyst for change, healing, and self-discovery. So embrace the power of music, explore with intention, and let the journey happen. Who knows what amazing insights and experiences are waiting for you?
That's the perfect way to end it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of ketamine therapy and music. And until next time, keep exploring, keep listening, and keep diving deep.